hello. Took a little bit to load everything in, but we are live. That is a lot of stamps. Most of these campaigns are not nearly this long. But we are here with the new mini box. We are going to go ahead and see if we are able to make any of these decks work. Personally, I'm not that convinced that any of these are going to be playable decks. We have the maximum monster, but the skill doesn't really make it that consistent to get. I'm pretty sure it was just like piercing if you're low on cards. We have the Buster Blader deck, which doesn't have their actual boss monsters, so they're relying on Swift Gaia instead. The Plants, whose boss monster disappears at the end of the turn, rather than getting a double boss board like everybody else. The one good card, but of course it is limit 3, so you're not actually able to use it at all, because Dragius exists and does the job better. A small buff to Thunder, and some additional situational cards. That being said, we are at 10,000 gems. So we are going to be pulling, and it looks like our first 10 pull is a complete whiff. But we do get 3 SRs to make up for it on the next one. Peaks of Listopia, definitely a card we need before resetting. And honestly, I think all of these are just barely good enough that I am interested in going for them. Maybe not the elephant guy. I don't think Mega Elephant is going to do much of anything. It is a level 8 monster, so that is 2 tributes for only a 1700 attack point monster. And it even requires a discard to get the normal monster summon, and only sometimes is able to redo itself. Compared to cards like King Rex, it is just completely not worth it. Unfortunately, our final 10 pack has the Boring Kong, which I think we are going to go for, since we are already this deep into the box. Wait, not 10. Single pulls, and hopefully we get it a little bit earlier. Is the bundle out? I have not purchased any bundles. Thank you for reminding me. I'm pretty sure Warrior Returning Alive was released, but I will need to check it after I reset the box. Unfortunately, it is looking like we are going to be going into the bottom packs here. Though, honestly, it probably is worth not going for this. I don't think Boring Kong is going to see much play at all. 2 packs left, and we get to save 1 pack before resetting. Let's go ahead and check the bundles. Looks like Warrior Returning Alive is indeed out. Let's go ahead and grab it. Witness of Dragon Destroyer. So that is the support for Buster Blader, which is actually the first one I am going to be trying out today, because the Warrior deck seems the most fun. However, it's going to require me to actually unlock the skill for it. So we will see how that goes. I have not checked the actual requirements yet. The only SR remaining is Gekka, which costs 500 life points to be a seahorse carrier. I can imagine this being off of the limit 3 list at some point, and that would be pretty okay. And at this point, we're already so deep into the box, I figure I might as well just go for it. Obviously, the earlier, the better. Also, I think the audio is probably a little bit high. So, let's go ahead and bring that down. Unfortunately, we are once again heading to the bottom of the box. 5 packs remain after this, and we are still pulling. I did do a little bit of grinding, but I'm thinking we probably don't even do the full 3 boxes. Once we find all the cards we need for one of the decks, we are going to just go ahead and start playing with that. Let's reset the box one more time and start clearing out these gems. We do get the Buster Blader. Oh, and the Emblem of Destruction comes for free, which is perfect. Don't have to do any random lifetime missions for it. We can just click on receive all. Our gem bank is definitely not at the point where it would be above 9,000. I think we're actually going to barely be crossing the 4,000 range, if at all. And yet, there we go, around 3,500. I guess I would ideally like to find the Gaia and Witness, as that is the deck I am most interested in trying. But our first 10 pack, for the 3rd time in a row, is a whiff. And we pull a bunch of not very good cards. Only have enough for 4 more pulls. We do manage to find the 3rd Witness, and it's even a prismatic. And we also have our 3rd Bill Dragon, but we are missing a Peaks of Listopia and a Worm Maximum. So I don't think that deck is quite fully buildable just yet. Alright, and we get Gaia just in time. Let's go ahead and build ourselves Buster Blader. I'm working on leveling up Asana for all of those heavy cavalry skills. So we're going to go ahead and put it over here. Emblem of Destruction. We need 5 or more of the warrior monsters. So we are going to start by filtering to warriors. Definitely 3 Swift Gaia, some of the 1500s, Piercing Samurai. And I think we need 1 more boss. 5 monsters with 2600 or 23. So we are forced to run 1 Vanilla Gaia. Oh, wait, and no other monsters with not even warriors. We aren't able to run the 1500. That is impressively bad. But okay. We can still run Piercing Samurai. Torero is a fit. And of course we need the Witness of Dragon Destroyer to grab Buster Blader, who is available on turn 4 onwards And if we don't draw it, because we're able to send it to the graveyard, and then revive it with Witness. Other than that, we are just stuck with monsters at 1200 and below. So I am going to go with, actually, that's a great question. What is even worth it? As we don't really have any other boss monsters, unless we're running more Gaia the Fierce Knight. But our skill doesn't even really boost it. As it does debuff the opponents, though. So we probably want some debuffers in our ranks. And maybe Essel to mill for the Buster later before we get to turn 4. And then maybe an Advantage Engine, as we're only able to use Swift Gaia if we're able to get it down to the only card in our hand. So we're probably bringing it out normally more often than not. And then we could go for Crawling Torso and the associated cards with it. Or Twin Edge Dragon to have a way to deal with those set 3. And it actually works pretty well with Torvero, as we're able to put those monsters with 0 defense in a defense mode, and then swing in with the Twin Edge. And then I want some 7-Zone Mages to help us mill while also debuffing. Welcome, Sarah, and welcome, Crimson Reaper. And I also didn't see Drill earlier. Hello to all of you, and I hope you're having a good day. I am pretty underwhelmed with the current deck lineup, but it might just be time to go ahead and switch over to the Spell and Trap cards. I don't think there's really much else we can do with this. I also want to run Seahorse Carriers, but I don't think we need to. So then, filter over to the traps. Definitely running Negate Attack and Slime. And then, is there anything else worth running? Our bosses have decent defense, so we're going to go with Sword and Shield. Then, over in the spells, we need some form of spell trap removal. But unfortunately, the Warrior MST is also limit 3. So we are basically forced to run a lineup along the lines of this. I'm also looking for Talismanic Seal Array. And this looks incredibly underwhelming. I had to cut the Hammer Crushes for another Seal Array, or swap out Sword and Shield for Warrior Returning Alive. But I like the idea of Shield and Sword, especially given how much defense all of our boss monsters have. Let's go ahead and just queue in a ranked with this and see how it goes. I am not expecting much. We are going first, which is always nice. Let's go ahead and set everything face down. And pass it over. And then we work from here. We are running 6 boss monsters, so a little bit less than a usual deck. but that should be okay. All of the dinosaur monsters makes me think Servant of Dawn, but they're on a non-archive skill. So Hammer Crush Steel is the next best guess. And we get the Buster Blader, which is a 500 debuff. And that's it. It turns them into a dragon type. To enable our Buster Blader to do a little bit more here. I think we don't really need anything else other than to tribute summon and throw down a Hammer Crush, trying to hit one of the negate attack. If we are lucky enough to find it. Enter battle and swing. But they have another trap. They open up both of their killer traps. So not much we can do there. Lost a 50-50. And now Battle Dragon is able to survive, though it does at least fail to clear out the Buster Blader. So we're gonna have to use, well, we could use our slime, but I'm not really convinced that we are going to get any value out of doing so. Interestingly, Battle Dragon actually is not able to clear Buster Blader without trading. And neither does King Rex. They are going to go for the trade. And I'm inclined not to use the buffered slime here. Unfortunately, our shield and sword is not that strong, as they are running a dinosaur deck. So this card is interesting, as it gets us back the Buster Blader. And that works pretty well for me. We can use our skill to debuff the opponent's monster. But I don't want to use the additional fact, as we already have Buster Blader in rotation. So we go here. Activate Mage and debuff. Then Buster Blader. And then I think we just set the rest of our cards. And now we can safely swing over the King Rex. And they aren't going to be able to stop us, as they have lost both of their main traps. Let's see what they do to deal with Buster Blader. Notably, 2600 should be pretty difficult for them to deal with. And we also have access to Sword and Shield, even if they do try to bring in a bigger monster. Something like a Dragius plus a small debuff wouldn't be enough. Alright, here comes a Swift Gaia. And I think getting out another boss monster is a solid plan. Then Piercing Samurai edits the effect and boosts Buster Blader by giving it Piercing. And that is good enough. We get in for full piercing damage, but unfortunately, Piercing Samurai is not strong enough to finish the game. Also, we did hit a dinosaur. So they must be on the Set Gaze skill. If they do manage to maximum summon here, we might die. If they are being in Battle Dragon instead of the maximum piece, so they do not have it. Bale Dragon swinging in to destroy the Buster Blader with the effect. And they hit it. Unfortunately, it is just strong enough to be able to clear out the Gaia, even with our trap card. So we can Buffered Slime to stop us from taking any damage. And now we need to draw into some boss monsters. And that ought to do it. Let's start with Talismanic Seal Array. And put back the rest of our boss monsters into the deck. Provide a debuff there. Hammer Crush is going to discard this to destroy this. And then Siesta Torero, and we have no cards in hand. So we bring in Swift Gaia for free. And we can finish the game. Warriors at a 100% win rate. Leo says Returning Alive is the better Legends spell, as it lets us switch out for any boss monster on turn 4 thanks to the skill. And I can definitely see that being the case. I will probably change it in a little bit. My main line of thinking is that I do expect decks like Cyberse and Royal Rebels to be pretty popular. So if there are zero defense monsters popular in the meta, Sword and Shield is just really hard to replace. But against matchups like the dinosaurs, Warrior Returning Alive is definitely going to be much stronger. And welcome June. And we get another Asana mirror match. Though neither of us are actually running Asana's skills. Alright, this time, unfortunately, we are going second. However, we do have an Essel, which might help out. Alright, no boss monsters, and also no back row. No way to know for sure what's coming next. Unfortunately, we mill negate attack, but we do get Gaia. So let's just try clearing over these and seeing if we can do it. We run into a Trick Pigeon. But they don't have any harpies in the graveyard. So I thought it'd be worthwhile to swing into the other monster, but it was just another Trick Pigeon anyway. And immediately going in for a tribute summon, but 3 back row is sort of a dead hand. Obviously, we are going to be in some risk of running into the negate attack, etc. But it could be worse. I want to start by hammer crushing. And we're going to discard the mage. We'll just get rid of this card. Then I also want to have Piercing Samurai on the board. I'll activate Essel to mill. And then I will Torero to return my monsters back into the deck. I very much would like to draw my bosses, so they are all being shuffled away. I set the Harpy Lady, then I mill one with Piercing Samurai to give it piercing. Set this face down, and Hammer Crush number 2, attempting to destroy a negate attack. But we whiff again. Is this going to be enough? We get in, and the other card is a bluff, putting us over halfway to a victory. We'll see what they summon on the next turn. Alright, So the Trick Pigeon is going to give them back the boss monster, but they are going up Tribute to the Doomed to do so. Unfortunately, they have a maximum summon, and we don't have a ton of outs in the deck for that. Actually, okay, so the skill would reduce it by 500. And then Buster Blader itself would go up. So, oh, but we're dead. I heard that it's able to attack all of our monsters. So I suppose they got me there. We'll give it one more shot with this deck. But then I want to move on to some others. Namely, the decks not introduced in the box, but that we are working with from the ban list. Ultimate Bond and Cyburst get out with very few actual hits. So I am excited to see them continue dominating every event we play. But also, I haven't played Royal Bubbles since Hell Tuning Invasion kind of first came out. So if we manage to draw into a low-level monster, we'll be able to summon out Gaia and then Swift Gaia. But if we draw anything else, we are kind of bricked out here. But we do get the Piercing Samurai. So let's bring in Twin Edge, and then Piercing Samurai, and then regular Gaia. Then let's activate the skill here. Set a card, and normal summon. We'll be able to out the opposing monsters for 500 each. And pass it over. I do think it is kind of weird that we aren't even allowed to play the 1500 vanillas in this deck. Like, I don't think that would be overpowering by any degree. Setting more back row. But do they have anything they're actually able to do? Irishima Warrior is interesting, but it does require running 0 attack monsters. And I'm not sure what they would be running in that slot. Unfortunately, this skill is going to completely out our board, and they even have an extra Piercing Samurai for bonus damage here. I was going to say, maybe they are running the zombie engine. I guess that would make sense. But I feel like our deck doesn't run enough boss monsters to really warrant needing an advantage engine. The Dragon Destroyer is already a +1. Let us Emblem of Destruction. Apply the effect, and we discard our Essel to send Buster Blader to grave. Activate the effect, adding Buster Blader to hand. Then, normal summon. Shoot off these two. And then what? Don't I just kind of die on the next turn? Since the Torero's not actually able to out either of these monsters. I get a Hammer Crush, but that isn't really good enough. Torero, we need to return these into the deck. But we also need to return these into the deck. Oh, welcome, Shoto and Drake. We are, coping on this not so good new deck. So, the issue. The opponent is able to debuff this by 500. But we only have a 300 attack point lead. And only a 200 defense point lead. So our Sword and Shield trap is not going to be useful. Do I think Machine is still good? Yes. I think Machine, if you aren't at 10,000 gems, just don't open the box. There is nothing interesting coming out today. We are only playing the Warriors because I feel obligated to play a new deck at the start of the stream. Because it is the box release. I think Cybers and Machines and Rebels are still the decks I actually think are good. Alright, so they do send the Buster Bladder to the graveyard. But they don't really have anything else going on here. So that is not lethal, which is nice. I'm sure the opponent's face down card is a Buffered Slime. Yeah, I am doing okay. Maybe not in this particular game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But everything else is going fine. Let's go ahead and discard the Hammer Crush and pop that. It is indeed the Buffered Slime. Then we set the rest of our hand face down. Pretty sure this deck only has Piercing through Piercing Samurai. So they need to draw another boss monster alongside it. Our deck still has multiple Swift Gaias in it, plus 2 copies of Witness. So we should be able to get out a boss relatively easily. Unfortunately, they do find the Piercing Samurai, but we have just enough attack. They somehow find the one monster with 0 defense here. So we are going to need to finish the game this turn. And I don't know if that's happening, but it could. We can use Witness to add back Buster Blader. Then summon Essel. Then Tribute Summon. We are going to debuff the Gaias, but more importantly, we are boosting Buster Blader. And then Talismanic Seal Ray is flipped up, returning 4 cards into the deck and reducing this down to 400 life, or 400 health. And that is exactly 3,200 damage, turning the game around into an unexpected victory for Buster Blader, and a loss for Buster Blader. I suppose we will go ahead and switch over to Warrior Returning Alive, as a lot of the players are trying out these new decks that Sword and Shield is not very good against. Similarly, we're also going to go ahead and switch over to a copy of Recital. And we'll go from there. We'll probably play until we lose another round. And then I do want to play some machines and some rebel. How long did it take to get the character? I don't know. I just used all of my event items and then played a little bit earlier today to level it up enough to have the skills in case we want them for later. Alright, so our opening hand, 2 low levels, Gaia and Gaia. As long as we draw a spell and trap card or another level monster, we are going to be able to get the double boss. Alright, so we are playing against an actual worm deck. Starting off with a big roller. Not very impressive. Unfortunately, for us, we are breaking a little bit here. However, Twin-Edged Dragon has a special effect, allowing us to discard a card to attack twice. And by discarding the card, we unbrick and summon in 2 copies of Gaia. Head into the battle phase, and we swing. But Soda has a trap card, face down, and ready to flip. But they don't use it yet. Could it be the buffered slime? Only one way to find out. I think Yuga is a pretty fun character. So I like him being good with the machines. Okay, so we're definitely being in the samurai. And going for a hammer crush on the card we know is a trap. It was indeed the slime. And that is progress. We have piercing, so let's swing in. We get the full damage. I don't think we need to be greedy. Let's just swing here and get the guaranteed 1200. We did miss out on 1100 damage as this ended up being a 0 defense point monster. But that's okay. Alright, so this one lets them draw Peaks of Blistopia. Seems reasonable to me. Oh, and they actually have the maximum. So, I don't know what we're doing. And we basically are forced to draw into a Talismanic Seal Ray to weaken this thing enough to clear it. Fortunately, it is going to take a couple of turns or a special effect to get rid of this. Okay, so 4200. Buster Blader is 26. With the skill, it would not be enough. How many copies of Talismanic are we running? Only the 1. And that is realistically our only out, so we absolutely cannot mill it. And that means we have to switch everything to defense mode and kind of work from there. Set everything we can. Activate our skill, debuff it. Oh, by becoming a dragon, they actually go down more because they aren't a worm anymore. So Buster Blader actually would have been able to clear. That is good to know if I survive the turn. I completely wasn't considering that. Very interesting. Oh, but now they have a bunch of cards in their hand. And right there, able to destroy the negative attack with their own effect and draw more. And then that is going to be game. So I actually did have an out, and I just did not play it correctly. Is opening the pack worth it? No. This game was winnable. Assuming the face down card wasn't like the negative attack. But I messed it up. Saving the gems is definitely the right call. Even up with a solid set 5. Are we going to be fighting another worm deck? No, they are on an archive skill. So perhaps they will also be the Buster Bladders. We see an Essel. Could still be anything. They milled only another Essel. So there's no info here. Unless they tribute summon. Alright, and it is actually going to be Harpies. They are going to be able to flip one of our cards up here. But Harpies, notably, are stuck with Avianus Spell Tactics or Hammer Crush. So I'm not inclined to use my negate attack here. I would rather let them just kind of swing in for their mediocre damage. Alright, and we find 3 boss monsters. Seems pretty significant. But fortunately, we just might be able to summon them out. Tribute summon number 1. Then, tribute summon number 2. And that is going to make all of the cards in our hand go away. Except for our copy of Swift Gaia. End of the battle phase, and we'll see how this goes. Swing in, no resistance. And a triple boss board is here to threaten them. Not only that, we also have a negate attack on standby, ready to stop whatever counter push they try to make. Unfortunately, our skill isn't really going to work, as they won't have any monsters over 2300. But I suppose this is fine, as it also means they are going to struggle quite a bit to actually clear this board. Alright, they set a dragon, but as long as we use the Buster Bladers to swing over the middle, we should be okay. They aren't going to let us do it that easily though, thanks to Tribute to the Doomed. And with a 2500 monster in defense mode, there would not be much option for us. But we did draw Witness of Dragon Destroyer, allowing us to add Buster Blader to hand. Form a Tribute Summon. Then Piercing Samurai is next. Send a card to the graveyard and give Buster Blader Piercing. Battle phase and swing. But they do have a trap card face down. And it is the one and only negate attack. Anything on the shop should be aware of to open. Not particularly. I think as long as you've gotten the negate attack bundle already, nothing else is really that important. Some decks run other legend spells, but Shield and Sword as a free option is a totally viable alternative. Alright, we see the Harpy Lady Sisters coming down. Presumably not a maximum summon, but rather buffing this pet dragon as high as it can go. Unfortunately for them, this is not going to work. I have negate attack face down, and theirs is already flipped. Buster Blader is sticking around and will deal a ton of damage on the next turn, unless that set card is exactly Buffered Slime. Let's go ahead and negate the attack. Our move, nothing super interesting here. But we are going to be able to use Element of Destruction to debuff. And sure, let's apply the additional effect. Get rid of Mage to send a guy to the grave. Then we Talismanic and shuffle in our copies of Witness and our Samurai. Debuff the Pet Dragon even more. Enter the battle phase. Swing over this. But they do have a trap. And it is Counter Pigeons. Interesting. That is fine. We clear this, and we clear this. We are at 4,100. Oh, interestingly, they actually have a dragon monster in the graveyard. So Buster Blader is sticking around as a pretty strong monster. Most decks just are not running any dragons, though. I completely forgot about the graveyard portion of the effect. That makes this a pretty threatening counter to opposing aggro decks. Their cards like Dragius are probably going to end up in the graveyard at some point, and they would have a little bit of difficulty actually outing the Buster Blader. Opponent has over 5,000 damage on board, but we do already have a few monsters of our own. Unfortunately, Hysteric Force is going to make it difficult for us to properly win, or to stall out, I mean. But we are going to be able to just bring in a bunch of monsters here. Do I even want to use Torero? Torero could be useful in stopping a Counter Pigeons. But we can just swing over the Cybertech Alligator anyway. So it's not a huge deal. Oh, but we can actually go for game. Activate the Piercing Samurai and apply it to Buster Blader. Then activate Torvero's effect and set that guy. 1, 2, 3. And then the Harpy Lady Sisters is a 0 defense monster. And our Buster Blader has Piercing. So if they don't have the slime, this will end it. Warriors manage to pick up a pretty cheeky win there. I'm going to do the normal stream on Friday. Yes. And Drake Tamer, they are indeed running Ultimate Bond. I'll play Ultimate Bond the next time we lose with the Warriors. I've been saying that a few times, but then I just forget and keep on clicking. But Ultimate Bond will be up next. Reasonably lackluster opener. Just because we are able to brick on the Swift Gaias. Okay, and if they are going SL into a Bill Dragon, that is a problem. Plus the peaks. Fortunately for us, no actual boss monsters in the hand means we are safe a little bit. Let's go ahead and debuff that first boss monster. Then I know I want to get out this guy. I don't have any Toreros, but I do want to try to mill the Buster Blader. That way I can use the effect of Witness. So we're gonna go 1 and 2. Unfortunately, we mill a bunch of really interesting spell and trap cards. So let's go ahead and Hammer Crush the back row. The field spell I don't think is as important. Enter battle and swing. Clear out these ones and we'll see what happens. I mean, giving them the field spell could be an issue just because of how much value they get out of their little guys. But okay, the bigger issue. A worm excavator has shown up. And we don't have a Buster Blader in sight. They have enough cards in hand that I am a little bit worried about this. We take a ton of damage. And we do not find. Wait. Yeah, Witness only works on a normal summoned turn. So that is about it for us. I'm pretty sure this is literally just game over. We will Hammer Crush just to thin out our hand. And then we pass it over. The issue is Buster Blader goes up to 3100. But this monster is going to have way more than 36. Oh, welcome, Pochies. The reason we do not see Dark Sword Magician is because it is on the Limit 3 list. And there is no reason to run this when Mirror Innovator is available instead. Or Dragius, or etc. So let's go over a quick Ultimate Bond list. This is what I'm using to work with the new ban list. Amigal is a Limit 2 card, but I only own 2, so I'm running the same amount anyway. However, they have also put Negate Attack on the Limit 2 list. So we are replacing Negate Attack with the Widespread Ruin. Other than that, Ghost Cyclone has been hit to Limit 3. So rather than a 2-2 split like I was running previously, I'm now on 3 Barrage and then 1 copy of Sword and Shield instead. This could easily become a Talismanic Seal Ray, or a Recital, or something else. Everything else is the same. I have only changed 3 cards in the deck. It is still very much at its full power. But now that I say that, we are probably going to go ahead and lose every game we queue with it. But realistically, this should be a top 3 deck in the format, being pessimistic. Could easily make a case for being higher than that. And we are up first. I think we keep the Amigal and just set the rest. Having Barrel Dragon already in hand seems like a pretty good start to me. no need to give it up against a turn 1 guy, the Fierce Knight. And of course, they are on warriors here. Pretty sure this is the burn card, but I don't have any spells and traps, so they are not going to be landing it yet. Unfortunately, no boss monster means summoning the Bale Dragon would have actually been the right move. Let's go ahead and cartridge drone one of the Aim Eagles into the graveyard and try to get something better. Bicorn is interesting. As long as I don't mind keeping the Crafter Drone on board, which I don't think I do. Let's go ahead and return everything into the deck, so we can bring in the Barrel Dragon at a reduced cost. Go ahead and tribute this. Oh, but they don't have a... Or, this is not a light type monster. So, we have to actually normal summon anyway. But it was still worth it to put the Aim Eagle back into the deck. So we go ahead and summon normally. Set this, Barrel Dragon, and see if it works. And it did. So we might just be able to clear the board. Remember, this card isn't going to be able to use the effect, as it was not normal summon this turn. They hit us with the Battle Slash, which is pretty funny, as level 8 or higher warriors, in order to get the bonus effect. This does not work with Buster Blader. What are my thoughts on the new box? I think it is pretty bad. I only invested the gems in it because I was over 9,000 or over 10,000. I probably should have stopped a little bit earlier, and I would have if I was not streaming. I only built the warrior deck to stream it. And I'm not really that interested in the worm skills either. If they start putting up results, I'll invest more. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure they are going to be releasing new Aqua support soon, as they buff the skill with no cards currently in the game that benefit from the buff. As for 7 Shift, Drake Tamer. Some players were running it, but the card got cut as players experimented more, and it ended up just not being good enough. Though, maybe players will start running it over some of the Ghost Cyclones they were previously using. 7 Shift could be used over the Shortened Shield as well, as an example. I'm going to bring in the Swift Gaia, but we do have the Widespread Ruin, so I'm not too concerned about this. It is a pretty weak end board. I remove, and we get way too many boss monsters. However, there is a plan for this. Vulturecorn onto the board. Mill a card, block that off. Then Ultimate Bond, reveal this, and put it back into the deck for the Aim Eagle. Aim Eagle is a low-level monster, so now we are going to be able to perform our Tribute Summon. Unfortunately, Aim Eagle still not able to use the effect, as they don't have any boss monsters on the field. Let's go ahead and put back our bosses and an Aim Eagle into the deck, and now we have a 4,000 attack point beater. Not quite enough to end the game here. Actually, if this was an additional 500, still wouldn't have been enough. Okay. Swing in over this. I remember the back row is offline. Yeah, the worm skill only giving 100 attack is pretty criminal. It definitely needed to give at least 200 to be, good. Like, I understand it's a small boost because the field spell is already a large 400 attack point boost for all of your monsters. But the 2500 boss goes up to 2900, and then only 3000 with the skill. The skill really needs to put it at least 3100, so it's able to clear out Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is not a super meta relevant deck, but it feels really bad that it doesn't do that. Previously, all of the skills kind of existed just to put a monster to 2600 to clear out the 2500 threshold. But now I think the skills do need to be doing a little bit more. I don't think things clear the 3000 threshold. Alright, we'll see if they bring in another Swift guy or not. I think there is a possibility the other card in the hand is another boss monster, and they are realizing that they sequenced incorrectly and are now leaving the game. And with a potential disconnect here, that is looking more and more likely. Ultimate Bond claims its first victim. And they are up first. Potentially Hammer Crush deal, but potentially a Worm deck. Only one way to find out. Let's go ahead and see what they summon. Opening up both of our legend cards is pretty strong. But not a whole lot going on offensively here. And even if we do draw a boss monster, it is going to leave us with just a lone monster on board. I had to go for the Amigal, but it seems like a bit of a waste. And there's not really anything I want to get rid of here, as having both of these cards will be useful in the future. Right-side Ruin and Sword and Shield go face down, and then we enter the battle phase and swing. Clearing out an Essel. Not bad. Buster Blader would have been quite good at the game's launch. A 2600 requiring the opponent to do something like a Thunder the Thunder to clear it. And then also Draconic Resonance was such a huge threat that having a card that just gained infinite attack points would have been quite nice. Unfortunately, our opponent is able to find Widespread Ruin. We lose the 50-50. But it was not even a 50-50 at all, as another Hammer Crush immediately comes down. The reveal, they are also running machines. So this has to be some sort of a weird aggro deck. Definitely an unconventional use of Hammer Crush deal. We drew into 2 copies of Barrage, which is actually pretty good. Let's go ahead and pop both of those back row. Then we Ultimate Bond, reveal Tough Striker, send Tough Striker into the deck, grab a low level. Normal summon, unfortunately not going to be able to use the effect, as Crafter Drone is an Earth monster, other than a Light monster, so we have to tribute summon Mirror Innovator normally, but we are still able to go ahead and shuffle back 3 important cards, boosting the Mirror Innovator, and letting us clear out the Gold Rush. Unfortunately, we are in a bit of trouble if they decide to bring in a Dragius here. Oh, welcome back, Shoto. And Frank, I thought the Warrior deck was fine. I think we won like 50-50. There was a game I threw for sure that we otherwise would have won. But we were also mostly fighting other Warrior decks and Harpies. So we didn't find anything that was actually good. I think the deck is going to be more than enough to hit King of Games with. But it's not something I would be bringing to a tournament. Alright, we bring in the Bulgercorn. And this time, we might actually be in a decent position. Bring in the Avant Wolf. And this time, Amigal is actually able to use its effect. We'll go ahead and send 2 monsters to the graveyard to bring in a big Mirror Innovator. And the Mirror Innovator is going to boost itself up by a significant amount of damage. I'll go ahead and put back the Bulgercorn as well. Then, Amigal, number 2, by getting rid of the Tough Striker. Just so we have another card on the board. Definitely not lethal, so Amigal is going into defense mode, battle phase, and swing. Avant Wolf swings in directly, and we'll see what they do on the next turn. Yeah, so we finished playing the Warrior deck for now. And we're going to be trying out some Ultimate Bond. And then I'm probably going to play Rebels after that. Alright, we see the opponent is on a copy of Shield Boring Kong as one of their limit 3 slots. And another one. And it's actually going to be coming in handy here. Destroying my Amigal. Funnily enough, if I hadn't used Ultimate Bond, they wouldn't be able to clear out the Mirror Innovator. But with nothing to out Avant Wolf, we are fine. Dragius would have been a much better choice for them. Let's go ahead and bring in Surge Bicorn. And we should pull away 3 monsters. Summon in another Avant Wolf. Then Tribute Summon. And it is treated as 2 tributes. Go ahead, throw down the Buffered Slime, and send everything back with Mirror Innovator once again. Enter the battle phase. And this is a lethal swing. You put the Harpies in Yuga's deck. I mean, it depends on what the rest of the deck is. But I would not think the Harpies mix well with very many of them. We have come across another Yuga. And they are also not on the Warrior Archive skill. So it could be an actual mirror match here. We are up first and have a pretty awkward hand. I think it's probably worth it in this situation to go ahead and bring in the Barrel Dragon in defense mode. And we will see what happens. Alright, 3 1500s is not a particularly useful start. But here comes Vast Vulcan with its incredible 1500 attack. Of course, the skill is going to buff it up, but only to 2500. So still not that impressive. Obviously, it is going to be enough to clear out the Barrel Dragon here. But we are only taking 1300 damage. And they have no back row, etc. Oh. So this is not a end of the... Oh, it's until my turn ends. Okay. Unfortunately, no... targets for the skill here. So we are bringing in our Mirror Innovator normally, we are definitely going to mill 2 cards so to get Mirror Innovator, some potentially better targets to shuffle into the deck. Let's go ahead and activate the fact and return our 3 boss monsters, bringing ourselves up to 4,500 before summoning Avant Wolf, putting down a buffered slime, and completely clearing the board. Let's ask, is the new box worth opening? No, it is not. No. I would not spend any of your gems unless they are expiring. Especially if you already have a Cybers or Machine deck built. Just continue playing those. And then it should have says, if I quit doing Duel Links, what other games would I play? Probably Pokemon. Probably a little bit more variety overall. Playing whatever new releases come out. I recently streamed an Etrian Odyssey run. I'm thinking of playing Sheeran the Wanderer at some point soon. But there aren't any live service games that I'd probably be playing, like, as a daily thing. Maybe Splatoon. Alright, so the opponent sets 5. Our Mirror Innovator does have a shot to get in some piercing damage. But there's also a pretty good chance that one of those trap cards will be able to stop us. We have to remember to only shuffle in 1 card this time. But then Avant Wolf and Avant Wolf can join us on the board. And our opponent appears to be playing Harpies. But it's also an interesting variant, running Winged Dragons. Not a great idea with all the Buster Bladers running around. I have not heard of Sons of the Forest. I will look it up. No. I am not a horror game fan. Alright, so they're able to clear out the Avant Wolf and then trade off the Faith Bird. That could have been a lot worse for us. Essel is fine. Activate the skill, and we do want to return a Tough Striker here. Unfortunately, Amy Eagle's never able to actually use the effect against a Harpy deck. It is a little bit of an awkward matchup. So we'll summon out this Barrage. And then we just clear this. I didn't even have an effect monster to switch out for an Avant Wolf. So it was a very awkward hand. And we probably end up losing this game. Welcome, Bruno. So that is 2,600 damage. And 4,100. We can go ahead and concede. Rathlesia, if you end up with the plants doing well, definitely let me know. I think the plant deck is a little bit interesting with the way it interacts with the bottom of the deck. But I wasn't convinced it was actually going to be good. So I'm interested to see how other people build it. Next up, we are going to queue some Royal Rebels. Oh, which is actually what Shoto was just talking about. another copy of Asana. Kind of as expected. Our opening hand is able to bring in heavy metal with its effect. But I don't expect we are going to be doing that this turn. Oh, but the opponent is actually on plants rather than warrior. It is our very first plant opponent. I mean, this one seems pretty good. Discard a card to... Oh, but it has to be specifically Earth. Does the skill change my monsters to Earth type? If not, incredibly suspicious. And I only have the one monster on board. Huh. And we are gonna go ahead and... Yeah, unfortunately, they don't have another monster on board for us to really take advantage of heavy metal here. But we'll go ahead, set this, Death Doom Requiem. Just slam this down. Normal summon. And I'd rather take the guaranteed clear, I think. Well, actually, maybe not. Yeah, it's only 100 damage. It is not worth risking the negate attack. Let's just go ahead like this and pass. While they make their move, I am going to be taking a look over at the leaked skill. Okay. So it does not change the attribute. So this should definitely be the Neoplandish instead. Honestly, I was just expecting a ton of cavalry decks on the ladder. I mean, 200 damage is not that impressive. Let's go ahead and do another Death Doom Requiem. Shadowbuyer, shuffle back in our Doom Metal for later. Summon in Essel as well. Get some milling. And then we can heavy metal. Again, not actually dealing any damage here. But dismantling the board and establishing our own. They have a trap that activates here. It must be the Bliss. That's going to change our monster defense position, which is fine. No need to buffered slime here. And if they manage to clear the board, cards like Phaser or Shadowbuyer can help us set up a Doom Metal counter push. I don't think I've played against anyone named Hanger. No. Let us flip this up. Bring in our heavy metal. And then summon Essel for exactly 6,000 damage. They must have ended up bricking on a few too many high-level plant monsters. The embedded skill. Sorry, I still don't know what you're talking about. Oh, amped up. If you're referring to the psychic skill, I probably have not seen anyone playing it for a month or two. It's all a little to play when it first came out as people experimented with it, but it is not very good. We are playing against K-Pone one more time. We have definitely seen them previously. And this time we actually opened with an Essel going second. They are just going to be setting 3. So not a ton we're going to get out of it. But we are going to go for it anyway. And we mill a bunch of spells. Let's go ahead, set everything, bring in our Duel. And we'll just go ahead and try to clear out a couple of the opponent's monsters, backed up by our Negate Attack for later. Pretty sure they are on Harpies. Maybe we will hit a low defense one. Unfortunately, we do not. Faithbird at 1100 would have fallen to the Shadow Buyer. Or that Trick Pigeon. Fortunately for us, I don't think they're going to be running very much spell trap removal. So our Negate Attack should be relatively safe. Unless they drop a Dragon's Inferno on us. They do have the Winged Dragon on board, but it doesn't look like they have it. And that means our Negate Attack is going to keep us safe this turn. They also have 3 attack position monsters, so a Duel would be pretty devastating. Let's go ahead and Shadow Buyer, returning a card into the deck to become level 7. And then we do it again. Shadow Buyer number 2, returning Essel. And now Duel is representing a 1-turn kill. Assuming they don't have their own version of Negate Attack or Buffered Slime. With 2 back row, they are going to be able to stall out for a turn. But our Duels are pretty powerful, and I think they would struggle to actually clear this. Recently, I've totally been enjoying playing the Ragnarok skill. But I would say Beyond Curiosity is more fun. Other than that, I liked the Dragon Knight of Darkness skill, though it is definitely not viable. And the Urashima the Hermit skill as well. Alright, our move. Let's go with Phaser. Bring in a Duel. Activate our skill to special summon this invasion. Then we tribute summon. Activate the heavy metal. Destroy this. Set this. Summon Essel. Battle phase. Swing. And we'll just get in for 1,000 here. Not a bad turn. And once they make their counter push, we have another Duel already in our hand. The sisters up to 3,100, but not a huge deal there. I especially since they aren't going to be able to clear out our other boss. And we just summon in the invasion normally. And then phaser for a do metal in defense mode. After that, we can clear out the Harpy Lady Sisters and try to swing for game, though I'm not expecting it to actually work here. But it looks like it just might. They're going to be relying on a card like Counter Pigeons to withstand the heavy metal swinging in. Let's go ahead and look at their deck build. And we will see if they are actually running it. They are indeed running one copy. And we are up first. Pretty reasonable hand to start with. Reincarnation is going to be useful later in the game if it manages to survive. Though Double Essel does make us think we might have wanted this going second. However, if they don't summon any tribute monsters, it's essentially a free +5 for us. Alright, we see a copy of Swift. And then another. Our Fire Breath is going to be able to delay their back row if we manage to get a way to clear this. Interesting. I think we will summon out the Phaser. Then activate Death Doom Requiem. And we'll bring in a heavy metal. Let's go ahead and get rid of their back row. And then we'll summon our heavy metal here. And it can't attack directly. But we also don't need it to. We can flip this up, set you, enter the battle phase, and swing in for a ton of damage. Just like this. We would have swung in for an additional 1,000 using the monster reincarnation. But I'd rather keep the invasion for next turn. It should be pretty unlikely they actually get a full 6,000 damage onto the board in one turn. Especially given we know one of their cards is going to be a spell or trap. Thanks to the genie's Fire Breath. Alright, and they are going to be able to bring in the Buster Blader. I was going to say the copy of Ghost Cyclone means they aren't going to be running 3 copies of the Swift Gaia. But the ban list is not actually implemented yet, so we don't know for sure. Alright, the Buster Blader is coming in. But that is still only 1,100 damage. Our Teen Soldier is strong enough that they are going to need another Swift Gaia in order to clear. Or a Talismanic Silhouette, I suppose, would work as well. That is the card we must have returned on the previous turn. Also, they have lost Negate Attack. And we are already set up with Monster Reincarnation and a high-level monster in our hand. For some reason, they didn't have the Piercing Samurai clear. But that is definitely going to be game. We can go ahead, special summon, just the one. And then Phaser Effect Bring in the heavy metal. Should be summoned for a Death Doom. Activate the effect and then swing directly. If they weren't going to swing in with the Piercing Samurai, it definitely should have just been set face down. After this, I'll probably go until I lose with the heavy metal deck. And then I will play a little bit of Maximum Ragnarok. Or Noodles. As Noodles are probably a deck that require a little bit more testing. Given they are being hurt a little bit more by the ban list. Alright, fortunately we are up first, as this is otherwise not a very playable hand. Well, actually with Essel, I guess going second would have been nice. Let's go ahead and get some monsters onto the board to protect our life points. And then we go ahead and end. It would be nice if Stop Defense was able to change our own monsters to attack mode to get around the skill restriction. Battle phase, we did manage to save ourselves 1,500 damage. Though, maybe keeping one of those boss monsters would have been better. Alright, we see Invasion has returned. But we don't quite have enough to use its effect. I think Shadowfire makes sense to summon. Just to get a monster back into the deck for later. Then we bring in our Invasion, even if it's not able to bombard the board. I'll go ahead and set the Essel face down and try swinging. Maybe we'll actually be able to work through a couple of trap cards early. Interestingly, we know they have probably the slime somewhere. Maybe our Fire Breath will be able to come in and deal with it when needed. Alright, Ragnarok activating a little bit early into the turn sequence. Presumably going to be a debuff on both sides is what I was expecting. But it looks like they are going for a double boss board. Is their final card going to be a third monster? Or are we going to escape with a safe monster on board yet again? It is Particle Acceleration. What will they hit? Stop Defense, not doing very much against a board like that. So we will take it. They swing in for some damage, but not a whole lot. Unfortunately, all we draw is an Invasion. Not quite good enough. Let's go ahead and set some monsters. And that is good enough for me. The Cyber Stack lacks any method of getting to our life points unless they draw all 3 pieces of Yggdrago. So we should be okay. Chaos Emtron does find the right piece of Yggdrago though, so we can't count them out here. And there it is. Fortunately, Yggdrago does cap at 4,000 damage. So we are going to be able to survive this turn. Even if just barely. Another set card coming down. And unfortunately for us, without a Death Doom here, Heavy Metal is not going to be good enough to destroy Yggdrago. So we'll go ahead and concede. And since we have managed to lose a game with this deck, it means it is time for us to switch as well. And as we've been defeated by Master Ragnarok, what would be a more fitting choice than to be playing the deck ourselves? Let's go ahead and rush Duel. And we open up with 2 of the 3 Drago pieces. Not great, given the relatively low odds of finding the 3rd one. Any boss monster would be appreciated, but we will make do with what we have and set 5. If they are on Harpies, any boss gets them to damage. And if they are on Warriors, then they're going to need to draw into a Piercing Samurai. Looks like it is going to be a Harpy deck. But they start by summoning the 2 bosses that don't actually lead to damage. Unfortunately, though, they do appear to have a Harpy Lady Sisters hiding in the back. And it's going to be nearly 3,000 damage. Or over 3,000 if they buff it with the Harpy Lady. Our recital is not going to be good enough here. I'll just let them clear the monster. Alright, a couple of Chaos Femtrons might get us somewhere. Reset Runner to the graveyard. Might as well Particle Acceleration while we have the shot. Activate the Fem and add Mani to hand. And then Tribute Summon Mani. Chaos Femtron again. And we find an Attribute. Let's go ahead and Mani. Return Chaos Femtron and a Reset Runner. Get in the significant debuff. And then we Hydron. And we have to draw a card here. I did miss out on a few hundred damage, though. Alright, and we draw in a Connector Dog, which is good. Activate Master Ragnarok. Returning this to the bottom of the deck. And we get to debuff 2 of their own monsters. End of the battle phase, and we are going to clear out everything. Fortunately, Attribute Hydron is big enough to clear out this Cybertech Alligator, and the pet dragon goes quite low after we remove the Harpy Lady Sisters from the board. All we need to do is survive whatever their first 2 attacks are, and then Recital should be able to keep us safe. But they are running the Boltricorn. Still, this is only a 2600 attack point monster. And we are fine. Presumably they are going to want to clear out the Attribute here. That gives us plenty of space to work with. We draw another Particle Acceleration. So let's jam it down. Counter Pigeons, not that impressive. Chaos Femtron, and then we need to put monsters back into the deck so we don't deck out. attribute. And we will draw a card. And then we'll set a few to boot. Activate the skill. This goes on top. Debuff this. And a battle. And we try to swing in for game. But they have the negative attack. Which is part of why I played it a little bit more defensively. We maybe could have pushed a little bit harder to get a triple boss board, but I was also worried about the number of cards left in my deck. A Talismanic Seal Ray is unfortunately pretty devastating there. I don't think our recital is going to save us. As this is going to be exact lethal. Unless they mess up. If they had buffed up the pet dragon instead, they would have had an exact lethal line on us. But we have seen negative attack, so we are safe to activate our monster reincarnation. Ditch the head of Yggdrago. Grab the left piece. Maximum summon. Return a card to the top of the deck. To debuff the opponent. Then activate our effect to destroy the Harpy Lady. Wait, this is the one that can be destroyed by monster effects. I might have thrown. That's only 2,700. And with counter pigeons, we now deck out. We would have had enough cards to survive another turn if we played it a little bit better there, for sure. But also, I am getting tired. We'll probably call it a day once I lose another game. Chaos Temptron is our only monster that we are able to summon. I think the deck is not with us today. We need at least one other low-level monster to make the Chaos Temptron work. So, after they wipe us out from the planet, we will probably call it a day. I'll go ahead and see if anyone else is streaming Rush Duels. Not anybody I recognize. Alright, so Agitated Hydron is on the board, and presumably they are going to have another monster. The Mani. I think we can probably safely say we are not going to be winning this one. Though we are still alive, so anything is possible. We could draw the other two Chaos Temptrons right here and negate attack. Slime is pretty interesting, as it would give us a chance to try to draw into the maximum monster. But I still don't think that is the correct play. I'm gonna go ahead and activate Maximum Ragnarok. Return this to the bottom of the deck. Debuff 1 and 2. Bring in the money and just try to start whittling down our opponent while also getting to return really important cards into our own deck. Debuff the Mani, or the Hydron, just a little bit more and swing in, but then they hit us with the Widespread Ruin. But we do still have our slime here, so it could work out. Technically, things are not over just yet. They switch a monster to defense mode. Pretty reasonable choice. Though I probably would have switched the Connected Dog if I was choosing something like that. Unfortunately, we mill a Hydron. And we don't really draw much of anything afterwards. I think we are going to once again be attempting to stall things out. Again, Cyberstack's not really big on piercing damage, unless they're able to assemble all 3 pieces of Yggdrago. Recital is interesting, as if we are able to bring in our Yggdrago, we can stop them from clearing it with their first choice of boss monster. Alright, and here we get 2 Chaos Femtron. This is where things can start to turn around. Let's go ahead and add an Yggdrago piece into our hand. And if we can find another one off of this Chaos Femtron. We found a right side, which is unfortunately the one we already have a bunch of in the graveyard. So, what do we add? I mean, I think we still need the low level anyway. It's just a little bit weird. The thing is, with Monster Reincarnation, we could still go for it. And I think since we only have our Recital to save us, the issue is they can, Maximum Ragnarok if we bring in more than 1 monster at a time. So we kind of have to hope we mill or draw a left piece with Attitude Hydron. Well, Chaos Femtron can get us there, but it can't actually get us there, as now we only have 4 cards left in our deck, which is incredibly awkward. Activate our skill, Maximum Ragnarok, returning this to the top of the deck to debuff 2 of their monsters. This is the only way to deal over 3,000. But it just doesn't work out. Between Mani and the other debuff. And I'm having 7 cards in hand. We can Recital 1, but the second one will clear. And then if that doesn't kill us, the other attack from whatever the third monster is will. If we had a second Recital, then we might be okay. Assuming we had actually cleared the Attitude instead of the other monster. But there weren't any other traps in our deck anyway. So there wasn't really anything we were going to be saved by. It is also worth noting, swinging into an Attitude on the next turn, it would be 1,700, so that would only be 2,300. We'd have to swing into a Mani anyway. I Skyhawk. I think getting the 1 extra turn would make a little bit of sense. You just draw like the 3 or the 4 if you can't draw 5. But I'm not the one who made the rules. In any case, with this loss, I think we are going to be calling it a night. Thank you to everybody who showed up, and I will probably try to make an actual box review sometime in the next week. But it's pretty difficult, given I think the cards are all terrible. So it'll probably be a pretty short video. See you all